What's up guys, hope everyone is doing well. In this video I'm going to be going over some updates for Bitcoin, but nonetheless to go ahead and get it started here, first off on the 4-hour chart, we can see that Bitcoin has since around the 29th of August been trading right along the 800 EMA currently, finding some horizontal, some sideways support. Also, you can see that we have been in the bottom bound of the uptrend that has been in place since late April. On top of this, we can see the RSI has been trading upwards as the price has been trading downwards. So we're seeing some multiple degrees of bullish divergences here. You can also find bullish divergence on the Stoch RSI, the MACD, RVI, and the ASO as well. Now there's a number of scenarios and the ways which this could unfold. As of right now, price isn't looking all too great. It's looking as if it wants to break below the uptrend here. And given that there's only 5 minutes till the weekly close, at this point it is basically 100% confirmed that we will see a close below the 13 EMA, which is something I believe will end up becoming quite significant over the next week going into the new month of September, but I will get to more on that as I get to the higher time frames. So if we do see some, obviously, like I said, the bullish divergences here, we could potentially at some point maybe get some relief up here, maybe the 50 EMA, maybe up to the 200 EMA, maybe a tad bit higher upwards towards here, around 117K at this horizontal resistance. But that doesn't completely mean or exclude the possibility of seeing rejection from here, maybe even here to go lower. It's obviously, I said in the last video that anything down to approximately 90K, maybe with some wicks down to the high 80Ks is completely within the realm of possibility, especially if we do see that weekly close below the 13 EMA, which, like I said, at this point seems like basically it's inevitable it's going to happen at this point, unless in the next 4 minutes we see Bitcoin move upwards of $3,500 to $4,000, which is just, obviously at this point that's not going to happen. If we look at the 12-hour chart, again, we can see the uptrend that Bitcoin has been in, where we see this, as I kind of labeled it, characterized it as this bunny hopping. We've obviously seeing higher lows, we're seeing higher high zones here. So I mean, at this point, there still is totally the possibility that we find support here into further price discovery, maybe into some rejection upwards towards at highest 117K. Maybe we come back down and test this for longer, do something like this, or maybe we fully lose this. Maybe we come down to the 800 EMA here at around $92,000 with obviously some wicks, maybe a tad bit lower, like I mentioned. If we look here at the RSI, we can still see roughly trading sideways. There is a slight downwards orientation here. So we're seeing some hidden bullish divergences, but we're also seeing some bearish divergences. It's a big thing that I've noticed within the current Bitcoin bull run since it began late 2022, early 2023, whether it's been on the lower hourly time frames or even upwards towards the daily. Something that has characterized the structure of the current bull run for Bitcoin has been printing bearish divergences, but then subsequently printing hidden bullish divergences to counteract and combat that bearish divergence and continue to sustain the uptrend to higher highs, obviously setting higher lows as well. I mean, again, so we see the RSI is quite oversold here. We're seeing those hidden bullish divergences sitting at 37 right now. Not too much longer until it reaches the historical oversold zone around here at around 24, 25 lower, which has been met. The last time we saw this hit was back in late February when Bitcoin was hitting around $79,000, $80,000. Before that, we saw it hit at around approximately 50,000 back in August, early August. So if we do see the RSI come back down to this zone, I'd have to imagine we would maybe at lowest see a retest of the 800 EMA, still sitting at 90K. And at that point, we would be seeing a various number of drastic hidden bullish divergences. So, whether or not we see Bitcoin bounce from here to more price discovery, whether or not we see relief to further sideways action, or relief to further lows, or we just see more lows right off the bat here, there still isn't much reason to assume or take the position as a more likely scenario that we're going to see the bull run end, such that $125,000 here was the all-time high. And again, one of the big things I mentioned in the last video was that losing this horizontal zone right here corresponds to these lows back in early April. Approximately $75,000, $76,000 will be, I think, that is that line in the sand for the beginning. It's the full confirmation or at least encroaching upon 100% confirmation that the bear run has began. But outside of that, I mean, we can see here also, zooming in a bit, the MACD histogram here has been building up. We're seeing a 2x bullish divergence there. So again, even same thing for the ASO, we're seeing some bullish divergence. The MACD is also more oversold. You can see there's a downtrend in the lows, but there's been an uptrend in the highs. Again, we're seeing, really to boil it down, we're seeing a number of things pointing to bearishness, but we're also seeing a number of combatant data points that are pointing towards bullishness. And a big thing as well, so move in here to the daily, is going to be, again, bringing up this historical, within the confines of this current bull run that we see here on this daily chart, the tendency towards channel-based bearish divergences, such as we see here and here. So everything you see highlighted in green, specifically with RSI, if you look at the price, you can see the price is ascending, and then obviously with this group of data that we see here for the RSI that corresponds here to the price, two price segments here as well, find its corresponsive data on the stock RSI here in these two zones, and also down here with the MACD, where they're basically just painting the same picture. We're seeing, specifically with respect to the RSI, MACD, in comparison to the price, we're seeing bearish divergences flip into hidden bullish divergences, and we're seeing on this RSI, or the stock RSI here rather, these 2 points here where we see ascending lows here and here. Then we see 4 main clusters of lows in the lower bound of the stock RSI, such as we're seeing here, which corresponds to the MACD doing something very similar. These 2 lows here, 2 lows here. We see a descending trading of the MACD in both of these instances, and that's exactly what we see here on the RSI, as well as we see the price moving up. The price is getting close to the 200 EMA. 200 EMA sits almost right at 104,000. So there's, again, that's another good reason to potentially find support on top of this bearish divergence, hidden bullish divergence pattern and trend that, I mean, the whole reason, the basis really of this analysis with these 2 points or segments in time of the current bull run is the fact that they are the most comparable to each other, where we're seeing, as I've demonstrated on these indicators in the price, the most similarity between price structure. Now, what's also interesting is if I take from low to high of these moves, this is 122 bars. This one here has been 124, 126 bars. So we're essentially seeing the same period of time elapsed here. We're seeing similar, as I said here, with these derivative indicator structures, similar price structure, with this final low getting close to 200 EMA as well for both of these instances. So if we see a further repetition of this pattern and we see a similar move afterwards, such as back here, then we could expect anywhere upwards towards around, this move specifically was about 90%. So if we see about a 90% move again, that would put it up towards around 205,000 or so. So I would, just give or take like $20,000-$30,000 from that. So I mean, really, it's kind of creating that general range that I've been giving a lot, which can be derived from various points of analysis, is kind of a broad range of 170 towards 200K, towards 230, 250K for a potential projected all-time high for Bitcoin. And also as well, just we see the RSI is at 37 here. It's encroaching upon the 272. We are reaching that historical bull market oversold level. And either we will find some support here, like I've been saying, or we'll find further correction towards the downside while the price is still above $90,000 to $100,000, yet the RSI is reaching oversold conditions and resetting itself to the degree with which happened back at the beginning or the end of the bear market, back here at 25,000 during September 2023, and then also here around 50,000 during August to September of 2024. There's plenty of reasons to find a bullish sentiment, plenty of reasons to find a bearish sentiment, and at this point it's only up to the passage of time to reveal what will indeed happen. And coincidentally, I believe the 800 EMA here on the daily sits at 75K, which is the horizontal zone that I'm speaking about. That is that final line in the sand. So that's literally the worst case scenarios I've been pointing out. We come down something like this, find support here, and continue to go higher. But I believe if we lose approximately $75,000 and the 800 EMA, especially then come up, retest that zone, and then still find resistance, at that point, I will more likely than not, with a high degree of probability, start to and fully switch into the bearish sentiment that the bull run is actually over. But until then, I don't find any good reason for that to become the case. Here for this 2-day chart, we can see here the RSI is continuing to get more and more oversold, sitting at 43.43. It's currently more oversold than when the price was sitting around 80 to 85K, yet the price is at $108.5 thousand. We're still in the 50 EMA band, albeit we're at the bottom or the lower bound of this band, but there's still room. Again, we're in an uptrend. We're setting a high, low, higher high, now lower, or a higher low. But I mean, totally, there's good reason potentially to find bounce here towards the upside for the price discovery. Or we could continue lower again. Here we have the historical uptrend on the bi-daily chart here, which is finding confluence with the 200 EMA, again, down to around 92, just approximately $90,000 or so, which is being, again, really another big point of this video here is we're finding confluence across these time frames from the 4-hour, 12-hour to the daily. Now we're looking at the bi-daily. We're still seeing, I mean, really in all of these, that bearish divergence, hidden bullish divergence pair, which is just many a times, as I've said, acted as a sustainment pattern within the overarching bull run to continue that movement towards the upside, setting higher highs as the time goes on. But I think it's just absolutely striking again, really. I feel like I can't emphasize this enough, that we're seeing the RSI get down to here the most oversold conditions of the entire bull run and when the bear market of the most prior iteration ended, yet the price is still above $100,000. To me, that's a really big sign for me, despite all of the various instances of bearish interpretations of the data. Now, if you look here at the weekly, we can see here that I go to a different chart because I believe this BLX chart is slow to pull up the new candle. So we can see here, like I said earlier on in the video, when we had about 5 minutes left in the weekly candle, that it was basically inevitable that we're going to see this weekly close below the 13 EMA. We have done so here on the traditional candlesticks, and we have also done here on the Heikin-Ashis as well. So we got it using the candlesticks across the board. We are seeing the close below, and like I've said in the last video, every single time we've seen this happen, for example, here, and here, this has led to a range of a 12 to around 23, 24% drawdown from that where the 13 EMA was at the time of closing. So I mean, that would take us anywhere around 12% would be right at the 50 EMA, just about around 96,000. 24% move would take it down to around 83, 84,000. So what we could potentially see here is if we see the worst case scenario, we see the price move down to the lower bound of the 50 EMA, approximately 90K, and we see some wicks that would potentially take it down to approximately $85,000. Ultimately, though, still finding a bounce towards the upside because this 50 EMA, especially on the weekly, as you can see here, very much so akin to the 2-day uptrend zone here that I pointed out here in white, that we've seen this historical support for, since the beginning of the bull run back here, late 2022, early 2023. So like I've been saying and stressing and emphasizing is the fact that we are seeing a number of potential bearish data points shaping up, but we're also seeing combatant, and I would say proportional, at the very least 50-50 sides of bullish sentiment as well in the data. And the very fact that we still have yet to test this and potentially find support here to continue higher is a major point for the bullish case. Now, if I were to characterize the bull run we've seen here for Bitcoin, this stage in price history was the preliminary stages of hope, where we saw the price build up from $15,000 to around $30,000 at a 2x, trade sideways here for a number of months, all within the 50 EMA band. It was battling that 50 EMA band. This was that period, like I said, a preliminary hope where the decision was going to be made. Is the bear market over? Is the bull run beginning? We saw the price here obviously win the battle against the 50 EMA and then move from around 25,000 all the way up to 75,000 by around March 2024. This move right here from 25 to $75,000 was and is the backbone of the current bull run, because this is the move that ended with setting new all-time highs, those first and early moments of price discovery. So here we saw the preliminary hope building stage. The hope that was built up here was then solidified in the backbone of the bull run here, and ever since then we've just continued to see the bull run extend further and further the price discovery. After this point of 75K, the bull run was essentially, not fully, but essentially confirmed at that point, especially after we retested the 50 EMA here and they continued to go higher and have continued to hold that thus far. So again, we see major reason here in all probability and likelihood to come down to the 50 EMA, test it once more, and then continue higher. Now, again, like I said, if we look here at this next chart, the 50, or not the 50, but the global M2, the Bitcoin comparison, something I've been going over, a lot of people have been going over, still finding resistance on that 1.5 year, a little over 1.5 year long resistance. The RSI is out of the Bollinger Bands, quite oversold at this point, especially in comparison to, we're seeing some, also here, some hidden bullish divergence as well. Now again, if we see the RSI come down even lower to the historical bull run support of the RSI, and we still see the price just testing the 50 EMA band at approximately 90K at lowest, I think that's going to be quite a bullish sign, because since January 2023, this has been a horizontal level of support for the entire bull run and its structure of local lows. Now, the M2 here has been going sideways since, according to how it's laid out on here, September. Now, here we can either see that the M2 is going to continue to go higher, or we're seeing a sideways chop here, a distribution zone that will end the bull run or this uptrend for the global M2. Now, if the correlation still follows the Bitcoin, obviously we're at some point we'll see an upheaval here for Bitcoin to go to, I think, at least 150K, but I think likely closer to around $200,000 or so over the next few months going into this year, potentially Q1 of 2026. Still, again, at this point, I don't have too much reason to think that we'll see the bull run extend significantly past Q1 of 2026. Right now, I think Q4 is more likely, with some potential bleeding into Q1 of 2026. But getting above this resistance here is going to be insanely important. I think once we finally see the RSI here for Bitcoin get above this, then that will correlate and find confluence with quite a volatile move here towards the upside to finish off, I believe, the current bull run. Here, if we look here at this weekly chart, one of the bullish cases that I've been seeing go around a lot is the fact that we see here 2020 to 2021, 64 to 69,000. We saw the ascending double top here, and people were comparing what we see here with this ascending double top, potentially a double top. They're comparing it to 2020 to 2021. What's also interesting is that it is also forming along the exact same ascending resistance. So potentially that gives it even more validity. As I'm sure you have already been able to gather, I don't particularly think that this is too, especially more likely than not at this point for various reasons, because there's still a number of bullish structures that need to be broken. And now as I'm getting to this chart to really focus on the bearish sentiment to bullish sentiment, is the bull run over? Is it not over? What's going to happen? One of the big things is that literally not a single all-time high indicator, whether in on-chain data or in on-chart data with various derivative indicators like RSIs, MACDs, RVIs, whatever else, which I'll get to some of them here later as I get to the higher time frames, is the fact that, and I'll bring it up here with the list, is it's a list of 30 different on-chain indicators, and literally none of them have signaled an all-time high. Now these, plenty of them, some of them are more credible than others, but again, like I said, literally none of them have triggered yet. And these are historical on-chain indicators that have been accurately, if not precisely, identifying the all-time highs for Bitcoin since its earliest days, since its earliest, 3 years of going to 2013, predicting accurately so the all-time highs. And again, I can't stress enough, none of them have triggered. And a big point that I've been bringing up recently is the fact that if you think about the market, if you analyze it on both the fundamental side and the technical side. The fundamental landscape has literally never looked better. In America, there's a pro-crypto presidential administration, pro-Bitcoin administration. We see Project Crypto with the SEC showing an initiative towards moving traditional assets such as stocks, bonds, and other funds associated with the traditional markets to an on-chain environment. We're seeing regulational clarity, not only in America, but we're seeing a lot of these same things as well across the globe, intercontinentally. We're seeing a number of countries over the years wake up to the idea of using Bitcoin as the main source of value within their treasuries as a nation. That is also, I mean, if you think about Saylor MicroStrategy with business treasuries as well, that really kind of seems to be the end goal that would be the smartest business move for any given business, is to realize the inherent value that Bitcoin possesses as a blockchain solution, a part of the broader blockchain paradigm and revolution. So the point here is the mutual exclusivity that I feel like I'm noticing. If we have this absolutely borderline immaculate, never been better fundamental environment, but yet we see our technical environment here, this is, according to many, the most lackluster, underwhelming bull market that Bitcoin's ever seen. I mean, even if you just look here, now looking at the monthly chart, we can see that if you compare this current bull run we've seen here for Bitcoin to this quick, violent move here, even same thing as here, and here we're seeing this stair-stepping, this gradual, more calculated, more measured bull market this time around. And I just have a hard time believing that we're going to see the most underwhelming and lackluster bull run of all time for Bitcoin coincide and be in the face of the best fundamental landscape that Bitcoin and blockchain crypto in general has ever seen. To me, it would make far more sense that we'll see one more major thrust of Bitcoin towards the upside because of the way that the fundamental landscape looks. Now, as a counterpoint to that, a lot of the times, which is the point that I brought up in recent videos or posts on X, is the fact that I use an example, Amazon and Jeff Bezos, that you aren't always going to find the value of your business, your asset, your stock immediately reflecting the fundamentals. So in the scenario where we see the fundamentals of business are only going up, statistics are going up, the numbers are going up, the business is growing greatly, but yet we're seeing the stock price not reflecting that. It's going sideways, it's neutral, or it's even going down. A lot of the times, the value in a technical sense of some given asset isn't going to immediately reflect the fundamental landscape. But I feel like in the context of Bitcoin, this is a bit more nuanced and requires a bit more specific attention, because it's not just a business that's offering a product or a service. This is a revolutionary, paradigmatic technology, a blockchain solution, and infrastructure that's going to be, I believe, such as many others do, who understand what Bitcoin represents. Bitcoin will eventually become the basis for value. It'll be the global store of value. As we are in a world, a digital age, a technological era that seems to just be exponentiating. We think about, especially with the onset, the rapid development of AI just over the last 5 years. As we're heading into a world of this technological advancement, the further and further push towards globalization, maybe even potentially a more globalized society, whether it's for better or for worse, we're going to see there's going to be, obviously a big aspect of this, part and parcel of this, is going to be the globalization of value or money in and of itself. And Bitcoin is really I believe, a herald of this. Some may call it a Trojan horse for so. But really, I think it's that primary dominant vehicle that will usher in the state of a civilization and society where we're seeing things are deriving their value from Bitcoin, and no longer will we see the fiat, or if I may, the Shiat currencies, the monies associated with nation states. And also this is going to be correlated, I believe, especially if we see the trend towards the good and rather than the bad, that we'll see a denationalization of currency and money, Bitcoin will be this fundamental substratum of value in and of itself, of which everything within the interconnected societal, civilizational, global network is, again, deriving its value from. And so, again, really, I just kind of sum up the point I'm making here is we're seeing an immaculate borderline, never been better fundamental landscape. And so why would we see a technical shift towards a negative dissolution, a negative breaking down, an invalidating of literally every single historical on-chain and off-chain indicator that is predicted, accurately projecting the all-time highs for Bitcoin? To me, it seems like those are mutually exclusive. It seems like that instead of breaking these historical indicators towards the negative or towards the downside, that we would see an overextension of these indicators to set new criteria towards the upside, rather than the opposite, as I've laid out. And I mean, also as well, as we move here into this 2-weekly chart, getting into these indicators that we can see here on the technical charts that have predicted, for example, here with the RVI, the all-time high since February 2011 has not signaled yet. I mean, the fear and greed index yesterday got down to 39. Today it's sitting at 48, and Bitcoin's still above $100,000. It has reached fear levels. It's right atop fear levels, sitting in neutral right now. Yet the price of Bitcoin is still above $100,000. Literally, as I can't emphasize more, or can't emphasize enough, no all-time high indicators have signaled yet. And we're waiting here for the RVI, for example, to do so. We haven't seen the pi cycle indicator up here, as you can see, hasn't signaled an all-time high. It's actually quite far from it. If we continue to see the same slope here for the pi cycle indicator, assuming the price continues to go higher, we'd see a top of Bitcoin at $200,000 or higher, according to an extrapolation of this slope right here. If we look here at this 2-week chart, again showing the pi cycle high and low. I'll actually get rid of that because it's not necessary. But down here we see the accumulation distribution of the open interest money flow index. This has also predicted the all-time highs in a range-like fashion since June of 2011 here in each of these purple or these periwinkle zones. We have yet to see that trigger. And again, and now also obviously, as you can see here, there's been a downtrend in a lot of these historical indicators, that have been projecting accurately so the all-time highs for the last 14, 12 years or so. Obviously, it's a easily deducible fact that as Bitcoin is maturing, something I bring up pretty often, as Bitcoin's maturing, its bull runs are becoming less bullish. There's less percentage returns, and that same thing applies to the bear runs as well. They're getting less bearish. There's less percentage losses during the bear runs. So perhaps, again, this could be used as a counterpoint to maybe this is why we'll actually see all these historical indicators break despite the current fundamental landscape and its climate being in a state that it's never been before. It's just never been better. Maybe what will cause this mutual exclusivity that I'm seeing become the state of the reality here in the near future will be the fact that Bitcoin's maturation is outweighing all of this. And it's because Bitcoin's getting older and older. It's having less bullish vigor and vitality over time, which is conveyed here by this 12-month or yearly chart. We can see here all the way on the left, we have 1 bear year, and we had 4 bull years. Now we're here, we're going to rinse and repeat 1 bear year, 3 bull years, 1 bear, 3 bull, 1 bear, 3 bull. So we're seeing really the kind of average here, just, as a range, 3 to 4, with a closer to 3 years for bull runs. Now this 4th year here, back in the early stages of Bitcoin, is likely due to the fact that it was young, still youthful, had a lot of that bullish vitality, like the thinking about the imagery, the characteristics of a bull, and its association with fertility and vigor and just vitality and procreativity, if you think about what it symbolizes within a mytho-philosophical sense as well. Back in the ancient world, we are seeing, again, this is another thing that has not happened yet. For all intents and purposes, this 3rd bull candle has already set a new all-time high, so the all-time high could be in for Bitcoin. But if we look here at this ascending resistance, this hasn't been met. It's not a necessary criteria to meet, but it hasn't been met. And if it is met, then we would see Bitcoin top out anywhere from around 160,000 all the way up to around 250,000. by the end of this year. And again, maybe even extending sometime into next year for a fourth bullish year. Because, I mean, we did see that back here during the early days, and maybe we'll see an extended run this time around into 4 years because we see the current fundamental environment and how good it is will further sustain an extended bull run to maybe even higher than $250,000, maybe towards $300,000, $400,000, or even higher over the next year or longer, as some have been speculating, which I've been bringing up as well. I mean, that's totally a possibility. Maybe we are going to, what we have been seeing here, going back to the, I'll use the monthly chart here. Maybe what we're seeing here is just a gradual long-term stair-stepping of Bitcoin where it's going to do something like this all the way leading into, you know, like 2028, 2030, where we're going to start pushing upwards towards $1 million or so by 2030 or so, where we see this kind of just gradual stair-stepping movement. Maybe it gets a little bit more volatile as it gets towards the end, but potentially that's also a reality that may come to fruition over the next number of years leading into the end of the current decade. But that was really all that I wanted to go over in this video. Again, to stress the idea that there's plenty of bearish sentiments right now that you could lean on. There's plenty of bullish sentiments right now that you could lean on. But then there's also the fact that literally no historical all-time high indicator has signaled yet. Fundamental landscape just looks absolutely fantastic and is only getting better. So really my question here to end this video is that really the main point that I'm making is this mutual exclusivity that I feel that I am picking up on, that has a reasoned set of logic associated with it. Why would we see the most lackluster bull run that breaks every single all-time high indicator in a negative way happen in the face of the fundamental landscape appearing seemingly so reaching that major inflection point in the adoption of Bitcoin and blockchain solutions abroad in the sense of what they represent for the infrastructure of society? Why would we see this happen in the face of such a good fundamental landscape where the bull run is just the worst, you know, quote unquote, the worst, most underwhelming bull run I've ever seen? But that was all that I wanted to get across and talk about in this video. So as always, none of this is meant to be financial advice, but all that being said and everything else gone over, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Start to